Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fourth session of the SIICaP Data Camp. So my name is Matthew Medrano, and I'll be your MC for today. And I am from the Space Mission Control and Operations Division of the Philippine Space Agency. So today is our last lecture for you guys. So I just want to get a round of thumbs up. Sino ba yung mga first-timers dito sa data camp? Just give me a thumbs up. Right, I see a good number of first-timers dito sa data camp. So it's always good to see new faces and new participants here in our SIICaP data camp. So for those who missed the previous sessions, or if you want to replay them, you can always check the PhilSA YouTube account because we posted there the recordings of the previous sessions. So check nyo lang yung YouTube ng PhilSA, Philippine Space Agency. Now, before I turn you to Draylan, let me give you guys a few reminders. So number one, we expect participants to conduct themselves in a manner free from discriminatory practices. Number two, participants should mute their microphones and turn off their cameras when not in use to avoid any distractions. Number three, you are encouraged to use the chat box and wait for the speaker to acknowledge you during the Q&A session. So kung may questions kayo at any point, just type it in the chat box. Tapos kami na bahala. Number four, for everyone's information, this session is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Number five, an evaluation and feedback form link will be sent after the session. So please answer this. Please answer them to receive your certificate of attendance. And lastly, our lectures will include interactive notebooks, which we will share the link for you to copy. The instructions will be presented later. You can follow along or do them later after the event. All right, so with those reminders, let's begin our program. To give us a recap and introduction, we have Draylan right here. Draylan.
Hello, gandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Hello. Gandang hapon po, magandang hapon. So muli po ako nagbabalik para magbigay ng sa ating recap, magbigay ng recap sa mga nangyari nung nakaraan pong data camp. Day 3, sorry. So first of all, maraming salamat po sa lahat ng mga participants na umattend sa ating mga nakaraang sessions. Sana po ay meron tayong pick up na mga bagong knowledge mula sa ating mga speakers and we make something good out of it. So on behalf of SIICaP team and the Philippine Space Agency, once again maraming salamat po sa mga umattend at a-attend pa ng mga SIICaP webinars. So here it is, last week, Sir Noel Borlongan discussed about the concepts of raster data. And so basically the attributes and available formats for raster data sets. Then after Sir Noel, Sir RK discussed Rasterio, like how to work with raster data sets using Rasterio and analyzing and visualizing raster data. So sa mga umattend po nung day 3, and then day 2 and day 1, thank you, and I hope that you have learned something, be able to use these tools to build something amazing. Use it to solve problems. And that's it for the recap. So balik ko na po kayo kay Sir Matt, and thank you everyone, and welcome again to SIICaP Data Camp Day 4. Happy learning everyone.
All right, salamat Draylan. Thank you for that introduction. And so far, meron tayong 146 attendees today. So can I just say, we're really happy to see this many of you right here. So before our lecture, let me take this opportunity to thank you all for attending and participating in SIICaP. Shout out to all our campers from different institutions, colleges, universities. We're really glad you're here. Our last data camp lecture will be combining both raster and vector datasets to make an analysis of a certain phenomenon. So for this part of the lecture, Frank, he will give a lecture on this phenomenon called urban heat island, and will demonstrate how we can process this in Colab. So hi, Frank, the floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So this is Frank from PhilSA. I am from the High Performance Computing and Informations Division. So I'm an IT officer here. So let me just share my screen para sa ating lecture for today. Yeah, okay. Ayan, so I believe you are now seeing my screen. So our lecture for today, so for analyzing raster and vector data, is about urban heat island mapping. So we will combine raster data sets from Landsat Earth observation satellite and vector data from OpenStreetMap so that we can derive a relationship between the vegetation index at saka yung land surface temperature. And we will discuss that in a bit. Ayan. So in this notebook, andito na yung mga links for the resources. So for this lecture slide, for example, kinuha ko siya from NASA's Applied Remote Sensing Training Program, so you can go there for more details. So andito na yung link sa taas. So basically, an urban heat island. Yun. Yeah, urban heat islands is just anomaly in temperature. Mayroong kakaiba, may kakaibang nangyayari, hindi normal na pag-init doon sa city, because of the presence of the buildings, and these buildings can absorb heat and slowly release heat. Kaya papansin nyo dito in this picture, na mas mataas yung temperature on the buildings. Yan. Compared dun sa rural areas and green spaces because of this presence of impervious surfaces, heat absorbing buildings and pavement. Iba-iba din yung phenomenon ng urban heat islands kada city. So it depends on the spatial distribution of water, soil, and nearby vegetation. Yeah. For the next slide, so hindi lang naman sa araw nangyayari yung urban heat islands, pati rin sa gabi. Yan. Because of the presence of buildings which slowly release heat from the atmosphere, so mataas kasi yung heat capacity nila, mataas yung heat absorption. So, mas mainit doon sa downtown compared doon sa ating suburbs. Ayan. Okay. Ayun. So, what are the causes of urban heat islands? So, yun, infrastructure, the presence of infrastructure, reduced vegetation, anthropogenic heat, so gumagamit kasi tayo ng aircon. We're also using vehicles that emit heat. Also, yung mga manufacturing plants. Yan, so they are all causes of urban heat islands. Also, yung urban geometry, for example, if you're in a city with a lot of skyscrapers, tapos walang flow of wind. So, nagkakaroon ng urban heat island on those areas. Of course, the weather kung sobrang init. And also the geography, if you are near a body of water, kung napapaligiran ka ng mountains. So that can also contribute to urban heat islands. Ayan. And it is also a threat to us as humans kasi it increase the risk of heat-related mortality and morbidity, especially doon sa mga with existing health conditions. So very important talaga, we need to keep ourselves hydrated. And also increase energy consumption kasi pag mas mainit, so we use more electricity, we use more aircon, so mas nagko-contribute pa yun sa urban heat islands. So this is indeed a problem nowadays. Ayan. Urban heat islands a problem. It also elevated emissions of air pollutants and greenhouse gases, and also degrades water quality. Ayan. So these are some of the Earth observation satellites that we can use to observe or to monitor the land surface temperature in our area of interest. But for the purposes of our lecture, gagamitin natin ito, which we call this the Landsat. Landsat 8 and 9. So for each satellite kasi ng Landsat, it can capture an area of interest every 16 days. But if we use yung tandem ng Landsat 8 and Landsat 9, mahati itong temporal resolution. Pwede na siyang gawing 8 days. So every 8 days, meron tayong capture dun sa ating area of interest. So that's one of the advantages of using Earth observation data. Mas mabilis yung turnaround time. Every 8 days, may capture na tayo ng land surface temperature. Pero may mga mas mabibilis pa dyan, mas frequent yung capture. MODIS, ayan, and Raster. Although meron tayong trade-off dito on spatial resolution, kasi itong MODIS, although 12 hours siya, every day kumukuha doon sa ating area of interest. Ang data points na ay every 1 kilometer. So medyo coarse siya. So yung measurement niya ay every 1 kilometer of your area of interest. Compared dito sa Landsat, 30 meters siya. So mas fine yung kanyang spatial resolution. And I believe itong spatial resolution ay na-discuss na last week ni Noel. So okay na tayo dito. So I will clear the screen. Ayan. Ayan, so these are just some of the websites where you can access yung mga land surface temperature data. And this graph shows yung relative differences ng temperatures when looking at these different types of land covers. Usually mas mainit talaga than the usual, mas mainit than the normal itong mga built-up areas, especially yung high intensity, andito na yung mga skyscrapers, high buildings, ayan. Tapos, in this types of land cover areas, forests, no? Mas malamig than the usual kasi they provide shade and hindi sila nag-absorb ng heat as much as these built-up areas. So, yung objective natin actually dito sa lab exercise is we need to derive a relationship between yung land cover and yung land surface temperature in our particular area of interest, Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija. So, before we start our lab exercise, so ito nga, no, we need to install yung mga necessary libraries that we need to use. So, andyan yung GraphViz, Earth Engine API. So we will be using Google Earth Engine Python API to get our satellite images. So parang siya yung database. And then itong Raster IO, we will be needing this to read and manipulate raster dataset. Itong Matplotlib for plotting datasets. GeoPandas for geospatial analysis. And yung OSMNX, we will be using that to download building footprints from OSM data. Ayan. So matagal siyang mag-install, pero ayan na. So tinapos na natin siya kasi parang cooking show tayo now. And napansin nyo dito, I have locked the versions of these libraries para maiwasan natin yung unexpected behavior kapag migrate natin sila sa production and everything is working as expected. Kasi we need to make sure that this version of GraphViz interfaces well or communicates well with this version of Earth Engine API. So, during the development, tsaka mo ilalak yung mga versions na yan. Para pag andun ka na sa production, wala nang masyadong problema. You are very sure of the versions of the libraries that you will be using. Ayun, no? So our objective again for our lab exercise is, does a building exhibit lower surface temperatures when surrounded by green areas? Ayan. So this is how we can solve our problem. No? So we will be using Landsat 8 or 9 data para makuha yung vegetation index and land surface temperature. And we will be using OSM data to get the building footprints. And then we will combine all of these together. So, makukuha natin yung surface temperature from each building. And then, using the vegetation index on that building, we will derive a relationship. Ayan. And then we will interpret our findings. So this is our workflow for this lab exercise. Okay, so number one, we need to get appropriate data for vegetation index and land surface temperature. So we will be using yung Google Earth Engine API for that. So ayan. So in-import lang yung library and then we need to authenticate and initialize. Kailangan kasi na may Google account, although it's free naman, to use the Earth Engine interface. So hihingi lang siya ng code. And then if you need to open this link para makuha yung code. Ayan. Something like this. And then copy mo to and then paste mo siya dun sa input box na ilalabas niya. And then afterwards, sasabihin niya if successful, then the authorization token is saved. Then we can now use Google Earth Engine to search for relevant satellite images. Okay, so for this lab exercise, we will be using Landsat 8 collection 2 tier 1. So ito na yung mga analysis ready data para ma-compute natin yung vegetation index and land surface temperature. We also have here the boundaries of Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija. And ito na, gumawa tayo ng rectangular boundary so that we can apply it as a filter for getting the collection of Landsat images. We also initialize yung time filter. And we are only interested dito sa band 4, band 5, and band 10. So ano ba to? So yung band 4 is the red, band 5 is the near. Kasi yung red and near, we can use that to calculate yung NDVI or the vegetation index. And yung band 10 is the land surface temperature. So just remember, itong mga bands na to, as discussed last data camp, so they're like information on a specific area. So in the context of raster data or images, bands yung tawag kasi nila. So they are just measurements. Ayan. So again, in this command, so we need to select itong bands na to with the date, tapos yung rectangular area of interest, and we need to sort them by cloud pixel percentage. Gusto natin na yung dataset natin walang cloud pixels or minimal lang. So that's why kinuha natin yung first of that collection. Ayan, L8 images, that first. So sure tayo na ito based on our query on their database. Ito yung may minimal cloud pixel percentage. So we will be using that for our analysis. Tapos, after getting that first image, kinuha lang yung cloud cover. So you can print some information about your Google Earth image, and then date and time, kung kailan siya na-capture, and then yung all metadata. So, ito, ganito siya. So land cover is 43.69. We also have the date time na ito. So if the image was captured on January 12, 2022, 2:17:15, this is in UTC. So in Philippine time, that's 10:17 AM. And ito na yung mga information about this Google Earth image, specifically Landsat 8. Now, after getting that image, meron na tayong potential image that we need to analyze. So kailangan nating gumawa ng export task so that we can download that image to our Google Drive. So ganito siya. So ito yung parameters. So we have the image that needs to be downloaded. So this is a Google Earth image object. Tapos ito yung file name. We have here the coordinate reference system. When we say 4326, ano siya eh? Ito yung lahat nun, coordinate system. Okay, so yung region, ito siya. So kailangan nating i-clip or i-crop yung ating image based on our area of interest. Scale is 30 kasi Landsat is 30 meters per pixel. And then itong folder na to, this is where the data gets downloaded to. Sige, let's see. I'll just move this and share to you yung file explorer ko. So ito, kapag na-mount mo yung Google Drive by clicking this button, lalabas na tong My Drive. And then afterwards, mag-create na siya ng folder similar to this, ayun, GEE API Data Export. And dyan na niya ida-download yung mga files. Ayan. Actually, ito siya. So, na-download na siya doon sa ating Google Drive folder. Alright. So, bago natin siya ma-download, so we need to initialize a data export task. Tapos, wait for it to be completed. So, naglagay ako ng while loop dito. Hanggat hindi pa siya, while the task is not completed, so maglo-loop lang siya. Ayan. If the task is completed, ipiprint na niya to. Data are exported to Google Drive. Ayan. So, andun na siya sa ating Google Drive folder, no? And this is just a demo kung paano natin siya i-visualize using volume library. So, gumagamit siya ng HTML and leaflet library, JavaScript library. So, visualize yung na-download nating data. Ayan. So, meron siyang mga controls dito. You can activate or deactivate those layers. Ayan. So, this is Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija. And then this is the RGB image. So band 4 goes to the red channel, band 3 goes to the green channel, and band 2 goes to the blue channel. So 432 ang ating visualization dito. And then for the false color, mapapansin nyo, nagkaroon ng mga red areas. So itong mga red areas na to represents yung vegetation on this area. So pinalit natin doon sa red channel yung band 5, which is yung near. So that's how you visualize vegetation from a raster image. So near, red, and green. So ganun siya. Ayan. So, checkpoint ulit. So natapos na natin i-download yung raster image from Landsat 8 and 9. Sa ngayon, no, we will now compute for the vegetation index and land surface temperature dun sa ating downloaded na data. So, ganito siya. So, we will be using Raster IO library. And then we will open the satellite image. No? So, ito siya. We will open this file. Ayan. And then we can print yung profile niya. Ano bang meron dun sa image na yon. Ayan. So, may coordinate reference system. The data type is geotiff. Ayan. Height is 443. Width is 802. Ayan. So after opening that image, so na-open natin siya using Raster IO, pwede na natin i-manipulate yung bands using band math. So for example, before analyzing these bands, kailangan kasi natin siyang scale down based dun sa Google Earth Engine documentation. So may mga transformations pa na kailangan bago natin makuha yung vegetation index. So for example, in this red band, basahin muna natin siya and then we scale them. Andito naman yung documentation sa taas. Ayan. And then yung near band then, we need to scale them. And then after the scaling, tsaka natin mako-compute si vegetation index. Okay, so solve na tayo sa vegetation index. And then for the land surface temperature, babasahin natin yung image, yung third band, and then i-scale ulit natin siya based dun sa documentation. And itong land surface temperature na to is in Kelvin, so we need to convert it into Celsius. So ayan, meron na tayong data on our area of interest, NDVI and LST. Ayan. So para mas ma-visualize natin anong nangyari, so meron tayong graph dito. Ayan. Ayan, as you can see here in the figure, on your left side, ito yung NDVI, Normalized Difference Vegetation Index. So usually ito yung ginagamit para ma-determine yung areas for vegetation. Ayan. For example, ito, ano yan? Agricultural area. This is another agricultural area. Tapos ito ay forest. So, kapag yung mga green, ito yung mga matataas ng vegetation content. And then on your right side, we have the LST in Celsius. Move ko lang to. Ayan. So dito sa Cabanatuan City proper, umaabot na mga 40 to 50 degrees Celsius ang init. Doon sa January 12, 2022, 10 a.m. No? Tapos on that same area, mababa din yung vegetation. So that makes sense, no? In a city like that. Mababa yung vegetation, mataas yung temperature. For the normalized vegetation index, meron silang ginagamit na metrics or mga range, no? -1 to 0, water, snow, or cloud. Kapag 0 or 0.2 ang iyong vegetation index, ayan, barren land, built up, or rock. So itong mga puti na to, ayan, mga ano yan. Barren land, built up, or rock. Tapos higher than 0.2, ayan. So sure tayo na ano yan, na halaman, vegetation. Okay, so nakuha na natin yung vegetation index and land surface temperature in degrees. We need to save them as another raster file, in a separate raster file. Kasi ang mga calculation na to ay meron ng decimal places yan eh. So iba na ang data type niyan, which is float. Ayan. So this is how you save another raster image with data type float 32. Kasi may decimal places na tayo eh. So we need to save that as another TIFF file. Sinave natin yung NDVI and LST as another raster file. And then binasa ulit natin sila kasi gagamitin natin sila mamaya for getting the NDVI and LST for each buildings. So at this point of this lecture, can we have a short break, like 2 minutes break? Baka may mga questions kayo. I will be reading the Q&A box. Sige. So just to review, ano nangyari for anong checkpoint natin. Sige. Ayan. No? So we get raster data from Landsat 8 and 9. From Google Earth Engine API. We scaled down the data and we compute itong NDVI and LST. So ito yung first part ng ating lab exercise. So let's just pause for a minute or so. Sige. Okay. May tanong dito si Jason Bazar. Sabi niya, instead of while not completed command, can you use if not completed? Sige ha. I-run natin tong cell na to para malinawan tayo about this. Kasi kung if lang siya, isang beses lang magpapass yung interpreter. Hindi niya sasabihin sa'yo na complete na talaga siya after some time. Kaya nag-while ako kasi gusto kong i-loop siya. Hanggat hindi pa complete yung yung task, hindi siya lalabas dito sa loop na to. So magba-block talaga yung interpreter. So, sige, we'll try to run the code. Ayun hindi pa tapos. Andito lang siya sa loop na yan. Yan. Kasi kapag if, yung ginamit natin dito, isang beses lang siya dadaan. No? Hindi siya paulit-ulit na magtatanong kung completed na siya. Ayun. So that's why while yung ginamit ko dito. Hindi if. Ayun. Sige. Sure. Okay, from Arian Polnorsho, yung sa pag-import ng library, anong pinagkaiba ng import raster IO at import raster IO.plot? Since under raster IO library na yung plot, good question. Hindi na po ba pwedeng import raster IO na lang ang ilagay? Actually, nasa inyo naman yan. So sige, let's go back to our code. Ito. Okay, pag nag-import tayo ng library, automatic, meron ng namespace dyan. We can use this raster IO as a namespace. Para na rin siyang function or some class that we can use. So kapag nag-import raster IO tayo, we can use this raster IO like this. So tama naman. So import raster IO, we can use this as a quote-unquote variable that we can refer to. Itong import raster IO.plot. Sige. For the raster IO.plot, o nga, dapat may kulang, pwede rin siyang maging pwede mo siyang i-rename as this para for future references, ito na lang yung gagamitin natin, yung rp.plot. So tama naman yung question ni Aryan, no? Kasi under Raster library naman na siya. So pwedeng tanggalin mo na siya for a while. Okay lang din. Or you rename this as RP, for example, para meron kang sariling namespace. Kasi kung walang ganyan, kung raster.plot lang, if you want to use that function, paulit-ulit mo siyang i-refer. Ayan. So tama naman. Okay, thanks for that clarification. So from Shan or Ripalda, what are your references for computing the vegetation index and LST? Okay. For computing the vegetation index and LST, ito, dito sa cell na to, may link dito that will give you instructions on how to scale your data. Here. This is required bago ka mag-analyze ng data mo. Kailangan mong scale down. For computing the vegetation index and LST, si LST kasi given na siya from the data set. Andun na siya sa band 10. You just need to scale them at convert sa Celsius. Pero itong NDVI, ito, please read itong mga references na to. Nasa cell na to. And this. Bakit ganun yung formula niya for the NDVI? But it is it is near minus red over near plus red. So this is fairly established naman na formula in remote sensing na kapag vegetation ang hinahanap mo, ito dapat yung formula. Although there are some variations in this formula, but this is the simplest to use. Ayun. So, yun yung mga references natin. Okay. John Chris, just to clarify, the land surface temperature that the satellites can bring for us to compute is different for the surface temperature or air temperature people feel on the ground. Yes. Siya? Land surface temperature siya. So, basically, rooftop temperature or yung pavement temperature kapag nasa open highway ka. So it's just the surface, hindi yung air. So that's another type of measurement of temperature. Iba naman yung mga sensors na gamit doon. But for Landsat, yun nga, yung mga rooftops or anything yung above the ground but below the air. So iyon yung land surface temperature na tinatawag natin. So balikan natin tong slide. If I can draw, kumbaga yung mga temperature, ito lang yung kinocompute niya. Ayan. Tapos since blank to, ayan. Ayan. Ayan yung nababasa ng Landsat for the land surface temperature. Ito kasi ay air temperature, so iba yung gamit dyan. Iba yung satellite na ginagamit for that. Pero yun nga, kasi kapag nakuha natin yung temperature na to, parang ito na yung estimate natin what people feel on the ground. But of course, may mga nuances doon, no? Siyempre, you don't measure the temperature inside the building, inside the car. So ano lang, kung ano yung nasa labas below the air. So iyon lang yung na-measure ni Landsat. Ayan. Thanks for bringing that up. So iyon yung isa sa mga nuances when using Landsat LST. Okay. From Florian, yung kanina po kinumpit nyo yung cloudiness ng image bago pinrocess. May standard threshold ba na pag above this percent yung cloudiness, hindi advisable gamitin yung image? Actually, that depends on your area of interest. Kung natakpan na fully yung Cabanatuan City or yung area of interest, natakpan na siya ng clouds. That's why in this section na visualize natin siya, no? Ito maganda, very idea kasi walang clouds. So ito yung dapat gamitin for analysis. Threshold, it's up to you. Tsaka yung research objective mo. Kung natakpan na siya ng cloud, so baka hindi na siya pwedeng gamitin. So you might need to search for another set of satellite images. So kaya nga in this cell, kinuha ko lang yung first image na sure ako na minimal yung cloud cover. Kasi that's an ideal scenario. Then dapat natin kunin yung NDVI and LST. So yun. But standard threshold depends on you and your research objective. From Aaron, for the NDVI equations, yung value ng near minus red over near plus red is in terms of reflectivity. Yes, surface reflectance. Kasi dito sa Landsat Level 2 Collection 2 Tier 1, surface reflectance na yung ginagamit niya. So, ito na yung physical units of measurement. This is not the digital numbers anymore. Ayun. So, surface reflectance na yung gamit. Kung ano talaga yung energy na nare-reflect ng isang object from the ground as seen by the Landsat satellite. Yes, so in terms of reflectivity. Is there a way to remove cloud cover? Yes, maraming ways to remove cloud cover, but I really recommend na gumamit na lang ng walang cloud cover. Though ma-remove mo yung cloud cover, usually by cloud masking, parang kulang-kulang na yung information. Medyo mahirap na siya. And how will you fill those spaces? How will you fill those information? So medyo mahirap siya, no? Kung cloud masking on a large surface, wag na lang. Gamit ka na lang ng ibang satellite image. Ayun. If you have the resources to do so. Sige, we have lots of questions. Are there government regulations during urban planning phase in order to minimize or prevent urban heat islands phenomenon? This I cannot answer kasi andun kami sa science side. But on the policy side, we would be very glad to collaborate with you on this matter para mas maging science-based and data-driven yung ating mga decisions and policies. Yun lang, thank you. Yun. Uy, si Michael Lance. Hi, Michael Lance. Tapos, okay. Another question from Miguel. Is the use of NDVI only possible with internet? What about SAR, which has no problem with clouds? Okay. Kaya na-derive yung NDVI kasi based dun sa energy na nire-release ng isang vegetation based on red and near. So, kailangan talaga na may infrared for the NDVI. For the SAR, na pagkuha ng vegetation, baka kasi mag-ano ka na dito yung multipolarization na tinatawag natin or cross polarization, yung mga HH and HV. So iba yung methodology in how we can extract vegetation from SAR data. But yes, it is possible. But for the scope of this lecture, NDVI lang, red and near lang yung concern natin dito. Okay. Daming question. Sige, I believe we can now continue. Ayun. So I believe na sagot na lahat ng questions about the vegetation index and land surface temperature. And now we will be getting building footprints from OSM data. Etong part na to mabilis lang. This is it. Ayun. So we will be using the OSM NX library for getting the building footprints on our area of interest from OSM. Actually, yung ginagamit niya is yung Overpass API. It doesn't need login credentials. So open yung data. Though medyo kulang and hindi updated. We will see that later. Ayan. So this is our filter. We need to get footprints which has tag of building. And then ito lang yung command, yung script. So we will use this method, geometries from dbox. Again, ito yung bounds na specify kanina. And yung tag, ayan, building is equal to true. And yung output nito kasi is a geo data frame from GeoPandas. So yung geo, ayan, from geo data frame is just a collection of geometries. Ayan. So meron kang collection of geometries na merong mga attributes. Tapos, for example, meron kang map dito. Yan. Yung isang feature na to, for example, yung isang polygon na to is associated to a row on this geodata frame. Tapos ito meron ka lang fields and values. And then this another polygon is associated to this row of the geodata frame. So this is just a geospatial database where we can store and manipulate our data. So after getting that from OSM, so it might take around some time, a minute or so. So nakuha na natin siya. And then we check the number of features or the buildings na nakuha niya. So we will just use this. So number of buildings is 3,043 on our area of interest. Etong buildings, gdf.columns, ito yung mga attributes related dun sa ating mga polygons or point features. So for each point or for each polygon, we can get the building name, ayan, contact, website, and other relevant information about that building. Kasi na-digitize na to ng mga volunteers sa OSM. And then next is, ano ba yung distribution nito? Itong mga values na to from the building column. Let's check kung ano yung mga possible values nila. So nakalagay lang, yeah, building is yes, 1,809. So medyo vague. But from our building footprints, we had 900 schools, 30 public places, 20 churches, 14 universities, 9 hospitals. So these are the kinds of data that we can get from OSM. Ayan. And if we look at the geometry, ano yung mga geospatial features on that geodata frame, there are points and polygons. We will try to resolve this later. Kasi pag kumuha tayo ng values from a raster data, points lang kasi yung pwede. At least for the scope of this lecture. So we will try to resolve this later. Magkahalo yung data types. And if we try to visualize that into an interactive map using folium, ganito yung itsura niya. So if we zoom in on our location, ayan. So andito yung mga building footprints. We also have points lang that represent a building. Hindi siya updated, no? Pero that will do. At least open data naman siya. So there are some nuances when using open data. Subject to error and hindi updated. But this will do for our lecture. Ayan na. So eto na, no? So for each building kasi kailangan nating makuha yung NDVI and LST niya. Ayun. We need to sample all of these. For each building, we will get the LST and NDVI values based dun sa raster na na-compute natin kanina. So here is the code. But before that, kasi 'di ba may mga polygons na mga features, 'di ba? Ayun. Yeah, may mga polygons. We need to resolve that into a point. So kinuha ko lang yung centroid, which is the geometric center. So yeah, for example, itong footprint na to, if we get the centroid, yan, ganito siya. Ayan, so point na lang yung kanyang representation. So how can we do that? Well, kasi yung ating geometry, yung coordinate reference system niya ay Latlon. Medyo may problema tayo dyan. Latlon geographic pa. And we cannot compute the centroid of a polygon if naka Latlon pa siya. So we need to convert it to planar. Ayan, planar coordinates. UTM 32651, something like that. Ito yung UTM zone 51N na ginagamit sa Philippines. So if you want to convert yung 4326 na Latlon geography or geometry coordinate system, gagamitin natin yung 32651 para mo-convert siya into planar. And then from planar, ibabalik ulit natin siya sa... from planar, we get the centroid. And then ibabalik natin siya sa Latlon coordinate system. Sige. Let me walk you through this code. Okay. Up to this point, kinuha yung geometry, which is Latlon, kinonvert sa planar coordinates, and then kinonvert sa kinuha na yung centroid. Kasi kapag nasa planar coordinate system tayo, XY, mas maganda yung computation yun ng centroid. And then ibinalik ulit natin sa Latlon geometry or coordinate reference system. So ito na siya, geometry niya ay bumalik na ulit sa 120 saka sa 15. Okay, so after getting the geometry, ito ay puro centroid na to actually. Puro points na siya. No? And then for each point, kukunin natin yung NDVI and LST. So we collect all those points, collection of all points, and then we sample them from the LST and NDVI dataset. Sige, let me repeat that for you. We collect the points, the coordinates, XY coordinates, and we sample them. Kinuha natin yung value on that location from the raster files. And then we assign them to the new column values. Pero sige, just to visualize kung ano yung result nito. Ito na siya. LST and NDVI na nakabit na natin siya dun sa ating geodata frame. So if the point is this, if the location is in ito 120.9, 15.5, so ang kanyang LST and NDVI are this. Kasi we used yung sample method from Raster IO library. Yeah. Ganun siya. So sige. Since nakuha na natin yung LST and NDVI for each building, so we can now get the relationship. So this so this is how we end the lecture. Yan. So if you want to export this data, yung merong centroid, NDVI and LST, you want to do this, you may do this, no? Tapos i-export siya as G package, sa geo package, and then you can import this to QGIS, no? Para mas ma-visualize ninyo, and print some maps. And then for this part, we just need to assign none dun sa ating mga raster image files para ma-free up yung memory nung RAM. Ayun na. And now, we need to get or to describe the relationship between NDVI and LST for the buildings in Cabanatuan City. Okay. Ito yung graph niya. So for each point, okay. Yeah, so for each point represents a building in our area of interest. So for example, in this building, ang NDVI niya is 0.6, and then yung kunyari ang kanyang temperature is 28. Yan. So this building has NDVI of 0.6 and temperature of 28. And then we do all of them in all buildings in Cabanatuan City. Then we plot them into a scatter plot. And then afterwards, so we just assume na we have a linear relationship between the NDVI, which is our X value, ito yung independent variable, and then the LST is the dependent variable in Y. We just assume na linear yung kanilang relationship. So I fit a polynomial describing all of these scatter plot. And then, kapag nag-fit ka kasi ng polynomial with degree 1, this is just a line. No? So, makakakuha ka ng M and B. So, this is the slope and y-intercept. And then, plot na natin siya dun sa ating graph. So, this is now our final findings for this lab exercise. So, how do we interpret this graph? So, our findings are, if there are no green space, kapag walang green space, so meaning NDVI is 0, so temperature is estimated at 39 degrees in Cabanatuan City. Saan ko nakuha tong 39 degrees Celsius na to? Which is like the default temperature pag walang green space. Ito siya yung yung y-intercept. So this is significantly warmer than the usual room temperature, 25 degrees Celsius, and we need to keep ourselves hydrated. So ang default kapag puro built up areas lang, walang vegetation, 39.4 degrees ang temperature sa Cabanatuan City. And as expected from our first part of our lecture, habang tumataas yung NDVI, mas bumababa yung land surface temperature. So we have here like a negative linear relationship. As NDVI increases, so meron tayong, the land surface temperature decreases. So ito yung isa sa mga characteristics ng mga urban heat islands. Vegetation provides shade, does not absorb heat as much. So kapag yung building mo napaligiran ng green spaces, usually mas malamig talaga siya. land surface temperature. So this is how we interpret our graph. So that ends our lab experiment. So for the conclusion, no, ayun nga. So we say that as green space increases and the VI increases, so the temperature decreases. So we have established a negative linear relationship. So that's just one of an assumption. Assumption lang yun na ano, na linear yung relationship. No? But there are also, disclaimers that we need to take into account, no? So for example, a first disclaimer on this experiment is that the data set describes conditions at that instant. Hindi natin alam kung ano yung nangyari before. January 12, 10, 17 a.m. before that and after that, no? Anong nangyari dun sa mga buildings before and after that. So baka makatulong yung computational fluid dynamics software so that we can model the flow of wind tsaka yung temperature diffusion on that location. So it just describes condition at that instant in time in that location. So we can say nothing about what happened before or after. There are also some factors that were not taken into account. Yeah, the building height, material, and the ability to absorb and retain heat. So we just set that aside, no? We're not taken into account. As you can see naman dun sa OSM data. Okay, we also didn't take into account yung atmospheric conditions or disturbances such as clouds, storm, and thunder. We just chose the image which has least cloud cover. Ito, elevation and slope, may factor din kasi yan. Kung yung city mo ay nasa mountain, gently sloping, or steeply sloping, may effect din yan sa urban heat island effect. But hindi natin siya na-consider in this lab exercise. And of course, yung large bodies of water, nakaka-affect din yan dun sa urban heat islands. Kunyari, yung city is nasa tabing dagat, diba? So, baka iba yung dynamics ng temperature doon. So, you can experiment that on your own if you wanted to. So, for anyone interested na i-replicate itong lab experiment na to, ayan. So, we have an exercise for you. So, you just need to change the area of interest in Baguio City. So, yung boundaries ay andito na eh. Sige, pakita ko ulit sa inyo. Ayan. Here. So we have the boundaries here in Baguio City. So papalitan nyo lang tong variables and then you restart your runtime and then run all of the code. And then try to generate this graph, itong linear regression graph, and try to interpret the results. Yan. Run all your scripts, generate the regression graph, and interpret results. Actually, kung sino yung makaka-replicate nito and ma-post sa SIICaP Discord channel, he or she can get a prize as well. So, you're very welcome to experiment this Colab notebook. So, ayun lang. So, that ends my lecture lab exercise. So, thank you for spending your time with us. So, baka may questions na lang kayo that you want us to be answered. Yeah, I will just flash here itong linear regression graph para makita nyo. Sige, let's just pause for a moment. And I need to drink water as well. For a while.
All right. Thank you, Frank, for onboarding us with your lecture on urban heat island and this comprehensive demo. I personally find it interesting how the way we plan and make our urban structures can actually affect yung local temperatures. And what we learned today is how you can actually use remote sensing to analyze this phenomenon and use it to actually improve things like urban planning, emergency response, etc. So buti na lang yung notebook na to, it can be shared and run by the participants themselves. So the notebook that you're using. So just a reminder for our participants, if you encounter a problem with the notebook, just message on our SIICaP Discord server. Now you might have some questions for Frank if you weren't able to bring them up a while ago. So we have time right now. Let's open the floor for questions regarding this lecture and demo. So hi Frank, once you're ready, open mo na lang yung camera if for any potential questions.
Sige. We will be sharing itong Python notebook in a while. Ayun, let me check.
So we'll allot some short amount of time to wait for questions. You can also raise your hand actually if you want to ask a question in person. So just raise your hand tapos i-unmute kayo. So again, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and yes, i-unmute kayo and fire away. All right, so we have one new question here. It says here, what is the difference in using NDVI and EVI?
Okay, so I think I need to refer this to our domain expert. So ngayon ko lang narinig yung EVI. So let's see. Okay. It's just some kind of another vegetation index. So gamitin mo na lang kung anong mas better on your research objective. Okay, so EVI is mas ano pala siya. So it's G times near overhead. Meron pa siyang mga constants that can be used. Okay, so yun nga eh. So yung paggamit nitong mga indices na to, it depends on your research objective, it depends on your data set, what are your satellite data sources, and yun, no? So evaluate mo na lang which is better for you. Yeah, EVI is Enhanced Vegetation Index. Okay. Okay. Ayan, another question from LGU Aklan. Good afternoon po. What NDVI value represents healthy vegetation? From 0.2 to 1. So, yun yung healthy vegetation. So, mga 0.8, 0.9 to 1. Kapag ganun ang iyong NDVI, it represents healthy vegetation. Kasi mas malaki yung difference dun sa near and yung red band. So it represents healthy vegetation kapag near 1 ang yung NDVI. Thank you. Yeah, ngayon ko lang narinig yung Enhanced Vegetation Index kasi I came from the programming perspective. So I'm actually a computer science student back then. So yeah. But we have more domain experts on remote sensing, dun sa ating space data mobilization and applications division where Noel is in, where Noel belongs. Do you usually use linear regression for the analysis, or do you use other approaches more in the projects you have taken? Itong linear regression na to, it's just it's just a first step. If you want to study yung relationship between two variables, usually ang assumption natin is linear muna siya. So the data points can be fit into a line. But if the points are not fit into a line, baka hindi na linear regression, maybe polynomial regression with degree 2 or more. Or meron pa tayong mga tinatawag na Chebyshev or Hermite interpolation, something like that. Marami namang mga researches dyan na but before you execute your plan, make sure lang na yung plan mo is informed by reality, by reading journals, by reading research articles, para rin ma-make sure na you're doing things the right way. But the linear regression, ayan, isa yan sa mga first step, usual na ginagawa. Nag-assume lang tayo na linear yung relationship dito sa ating lab exercise. But in general, it may not be the case. Ayun. Another question, does NDVI measure soil moisture? Iba yung index na ginagamit to measure the soil moisture. Satellite image or optical, and also yung mga radar images from SAR satellites, kaya rin nilang mag-measure ng soil moisture. But for NDVI, it's for the vegetation only. Ano pa ba yung mga iba't ibang indices? So meron tayong NDWI, which is water index, ganyan. So for detecting water naman yun. Tapos we also have yung mangrove vegetation index, no? Yung kalalabas lang na research journal from Dr. Ariel Blanco and team. So yung index naman na yun, napakasimple lang. So it's actually near and sphere band. So nakukuha na niya kung ano yung mga mangrove plantation. So we already generated mangrove maps of that. So if you want to get those information, contact nyo lang kami. Okay. Sige, let's just wait for more questions. Yeah. Great.
We have another question.
Yeah. Oh.
LGU Aklan. Does NDVI measure soil moisture?
Ayun, that question answer na siya, but we have another question, ano. So are there other satellites that can bring good data for LST and NDVIs other than Landsat? Sige, please refer na lang dun sa lecture slide, dun sa data camp, notebook. Andun na yung mga data sources natin for satellite radiance and land surface temperature. Bakit Landsat yung gamit natin today? So, number 1, libre siya. Number 2, mas mabilis yung kanyang temporal resolution. Every 8 days lang may measurement ka na. No? Pero yung iba naman, mas frequent pa yung temporal resolution. Pero 1 kilometer kasi yung kanyang spatial resolution. Medyo pixelated na yung raster image, basically. Quote-unquote pixelated. Medyo hindi okay yung information na magagather natin. Hindi siya as detailed enough. Kasi we're comparing buildings And buildings, ano bang spatial resolution ng buildings? Maybe in order of 10 meters or so. So, gamitin natin yung Landsat na mas malapit yung spatial resolution doon. Ayun. Are there any indexes or any indices for sea surface salinity? Interesting question. Though, sa ngayon, I cannot think of anything for sea surface salinity. Though iba kasi pa yung salinity on the surface of the sea and the bottom of the sea. So we need to consult literature on that. Ayun, thanks for asking. Can we also use these libraries to extract elevation or topographic data? I believe na-discuss na to ni Noel last week. So meron tayong awesome DEM na library that we can extract elevation or topographic data. Ayun. So please refer to awesome DEM library or dun sa GitHub repository. But yes, Raster.io, we can also use that to extract elevation or topographic data. Another question, what is the importance of scaling the bands before processing? Ang ini-scale po ba is yung resolution ng satellite images? Okay. Yung scaling in this context is what we call yung radiometric scaling. Kasi yung value na nakuha natin from Google Earth Engine, para siyang value na interpreted by the satellite. So, but if we need to get the real, quote-unquote, real value, yung surface reflectance, no? Yung energy reflected by the surface or the plants or the buildings. So, we need to scale that down. So, kasama to dun sa contract. Yeah. Sa contract, when we use Google Earth Engine data, we need to scale them down before we use them for analysis. So, required talaga siya. So, ang ini-scale nun or ang kinakalibrate nun is yung radiometric values from digital numbers to physically informed values. Tapos, itong mga physical values na to, ito yung gagamitin natin for analysis. I've seen Maxar images sources in Google Earth. Can we also acquire access or extract it using Google Colab? I don't think so. Pero kasi if you look at this Google Earth Engine catalog, so meron tayong, let me see yung chat. Ayan. So, andito yung mga catalog na pwede natin makuha from Earth Engine data. I believe hindi kasama doon yung VHR, no? Yung mga Worldview GUI. Yeah, wala silang license to distribute that. Ayun. So, sa Google Earth Engine, we have Landsat, Sentinel, MODIS. Ayun. But not yung mga VHR. Yeah. And I believe hindi kasama yung Maxar image sources dito sa Google Earth. Ayun. Sige. Yes, yes. No, yes, it is possible to gather a series of satellite images to perform calculations for time series analysis. Sige, let me share my screen. Puntahan natin tong link na to. So in this tutorial, we can actually extract yung time series data. So get a time series. So meron kang point of interest and then hahanapin mo lang yung mga so this is how you extract yung mga time series information tsaka ipo-plot. So meron tayong tutorial for that. Okay. Yeah. I think okay, wala na tayong questions, no? Sige.
All right. So thank you everyone for participating in the Q&A session, and salamat din Frank for answering all these questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to, or questions na hindi nasagot, feel free to post them sa chat. We'll find ways to answer them later. So at this point, our next presentation will be the call for presenters on our last data camp session. But before we move forward to that, mag-icebreaker muna tayo. So as usual, we have prepared short quizzes for you guys. Winners of our games will receive some merch. So let me call on Raylan para mag-lead sa game na to. Raylan?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon everyone ulit. Wait lang po. Prepare ko lang yung game natin for today. It's a quiz rather. Sorry. So as usual, sa mga na po dito, matagal nang sumasali sa mga data camp natin, sessions. So all you need to do is access the link menti.com and then enter the code you see on the screen, and then scan also the QR or sa mga naka-mobile. So let's go. So meron tayong ilan ba ngayong hapon, we have I think 200 participants. So aim natin kahit maka 100. We need to start na. So we are at 65 participants. So kung hindi man natin makuha yung 100, siguro by exactly 250, we'll start. So let's go. And then for the participants, mas okay po sana kung gamitin natin yung full name natin rather than using a pen name. So, winners will be receiving a prize. So, you can just screenshot your screen later and then send it to SIICaP@philsa.gov.ph. So, ang mechanics lang po ng quiz is pabilisan lang pong sumagot. And then, it's a multiple choice and then alam niyo na yan. So, we're down 1 minute na lang and we'll start. Ooh. 95 participants. So, 5 na lang. Eto, 2 na, 3. 97 na po. So, 99. Sige na, sumali ka na. Isa na lang yan. Alright, so we are at 250. So, ayan, start na po tayo. So good luck everyone. The first question, the type of geospatial data type represented by points, lines, and polygons. I think this was discussed in the yung day 2 ata, day 3. Oh no, both raster and vector. Alright, the correct answer is vector. Alright, eto na ang ating magic leaderboard. So let's see kung sino ang win top 3 natin for that round. So Keith, Miss Jenny, and then Jendy. So, tingnan natin kung mapapalitan ba sila. We have 8 questions lang ha. So, pabilisan to guys. Types of geospatial data represented by equally sized pixels. GeoJSON, vector, or raster. Again, same options. Right? Sa mga magagaling dyan chumamba. Alam niyo yan guys. O, diba? 91! So, 6 lang yung nagkamali. Oh, grabe oh. Very good guys, very good. Question number 3. Python library for reading vector data. Laging gamit na gamit to ni Sir Frank and nila Sir RK during the discussion. Ay, sorry. Wait. What happened? Oh, sorry guys. My bad. Na-next ko po yung question. Sorry. I hope, nakapag-answer lahat. Sorry. Sorry. My bad guys. Medyo kabado lang yung host nyo for today's afternoon. At ito na nga. Ikaw na naman, Sir John Chris Torres, oh. Grabe naman, sir. Grabe naman yan, sir. Ikaw na naman. Umulit pa yun. Hindi naman umulit yung question, no? Yeah. Vector yung last question. Alright. Alright, correct. Sabi. Next question. A free environment to write and execute Python commands through the browser running in the cloud. Jupyter Notebook, Google Colab, or PyCharm. Pabilisan to guys. To earn more points, you need to answer fast. So yung mga mahihina po yung data dyan, lumabas na kayo ng bahay, humanap na kayo ng malakas na signal. Deal sa merchandise po ang ating price. Nako, tingnan natin. Grabe naman, sir. Ayun! Ma'am Jendy, very good. Second, Sir John Chris. And then third is Sir Aldrin Padua. So, meron pa tayong 6, 7, 8. Last 3 questions. Para sa prize, you can do it, guys. A spatial reference system that represents locations on the Earth using Cartesian coordinates. Projected coordinate system, geographic coordinate system, or the geographic information system. Parang pare-pareho yung choices ah. Eto na nga, nalito na nga ang ating participants. Grabe guys, medyo nalito kayo doon. Okay lang yan. So you know na projected coordinate system pala yon, hindi geographic coordinate system. At yun. So, last two questions. Which outputs hello world? Allah. Sala. Python code, sir. So, alin nga daw dito yon? Sana nakapag explore yung mga beginners natin sa Python dyan. Ito na yung sign na kailangan nyo na mag-aral ng Python. At ayan na nga, marami palang Python programmer dito. Very good, guys. Very good. So, tingnan natin ulit ang ating leaderboard. Ayun, sir! John Chris Torres. Bumagsak na po siya sa pang-10. Okay lang yan, sir. Give chance to others naman daw. Grabe si Sir Marco. Hindi ko siya nakita kanina pero nandiyan na ngayon siya sa top 1 na. Very good, guys. Very good. Congrats. So, last question. Sige, bigyan ko kayo ng time mag-stretch at i-prepare yung daliri nyo sa pagpindot ng tamang sagot. So, ready na ba, guys? Ready na? Okay, galingan nyo, ha? Kailangan nyo, guys. I got you. At ito na nga, ang final question. Which command installs Raster in Colab? Ay, yan guys. Kung nakinig kayo guys sa mga first speakers natin, alam na alam niyo ito. Good luck. And then, congratulations sa mananalo. At ayun na nga. Very good. Congratulations sa ating winners for today's quiz. Ayan, tingnan natin. Paki-screenshot na lang po. Yun na nga, congratulations Sir Marco for winning SIICaP Data Camp Day 4 quiz/game. Yeah, thank you very much and sana na-energize kayo. So see you sa sa last session natin. We will guys meet again. Thank you very much and congratulations again. Pa-screenshot na lang po and pa-email sa SIICaP@philsa.gov.ph. Thank you!
Alright, congratulations ulit sa winners ng quiz. Grabe, yung init ng laban. Makes me wonder kung ano ba yung marks na to at parang very competitive kanina. So, reminder lang kung ikaw ay part ng top 3 na sa mga winners, please take a screenshot of the result tapos i-send nyo sa SIICaP@philsa.gov.ph. So ngayon, proceed na tayo sa presentation ni Nico. And so ang gagawin niya sa presentation to is he will announce the call for presentation from our last data camp session. And also, he will discuss its mechanics tsaka yung mga important dates. So, hello, Nico.
Hello. I hope you see my screen. Kita ba yung full screen? Can I get a response? Ayun, I see thumbs up. Thank you. So, hello everyone. Tapos na ang ating mga lectures. Ngayon naman, it's time for you to shine. I am going to announce our call for our Day 5 participants. Sa ating last session ng Data Camp, participants will get the opportunity to show and tell what they have learned in the whole Data Camp sessions. So, ayan. Muli, ang ating team ng PhilSA 3rd anniversary ay ang sama-samang pagbangon gamit ang kaalaman mula kalawakan. Ang highlight nito ang role ng end users sa pag-unawa ng impormasyon galing kalawakan. through DataCamp, we will enable you to make outputs from space data at magkaroon ng opportunity to present them. Dito, you will get an experience not just processing the data but also communicate yung ginawa nyo gamit ang mga geospatial data. Ang ating activity ay gagawin sa World Space Week na may theme naman na Space and Sustainability. Basically, we want more people using space data. Samahan nyo kami mag-celebrate ng mga activities na to. So, some information ng ating gaganapin na activity. First, we just want a casual show and tell presentation. Yung show and tell, if nagkaroon kayo ng experience sa basic school, ito ay parang magdadala lang ng gamit at i-describe ito sa classmates nyo. Dito sa DataCamp, we are not encouraging very complex problems na i-present. Gusto lang namin makita kung paano nyo gamitin ang mga naturo namin and communicate to us and to fellow participants how you came up with your output and result. Second, magkakaroon tayo ng drop-in sessions kung saan pwede kayo mag-consult sa amin gamit ang SIICaP Discord. It's a chance to really meet you at kung anong ginagawa nyo. 10 projects ang mapipili para i-present yung projects. So, ito yung mga mechanics for our show and tell. First, students and professionals are welcome to join. It is open to everyone. Wala tong age limit. Second, individuals or groups of 5 can join the presentation. Kung may classmate kayo dito, hatakin nyo na. I believe kaya naman siya. And although I believe na kaya naman siya individually. Third, the project can be on any application of vector, raster, or both datasets using Python, Colab, and the tools we discussed in DataCamp. We will be very strict with this requirement. You can incorporate GIS. However, gusto namin mainly in Python yung methods niyo. So, ayan. Next or fourth, projects are chosen using criteria, and I will discuss the criteria later. And finally, the selected projects will be presented for a maximum of 7 minutes only. So madali lang siya. Ayun. Ito yung mga criteria namin for the project proposal. So magkakaroon tayo, i-open namin yung registration form kung saan pwede kayo mag-pitch ng projects niyo. So first ay ang significance, impact, and timeliness. Magbibigay kami ng premium sa pagiging angkop ng project. Bakit ba kailangan ng project na to, or bakit niyo ba gustong ipakita ang project na to? So ito ay 40%. Second ay clarity ng proposal. Madali bang mag-gets yung proposal mo based doon sa registration? Doable nga ba ito? Nasabi mo ba kung paano ma-achieve yung results, and etc. And finally, ang originality at creativity. Bago ba ito? Out of the box ba ang project na to? Mga ganun. So, ang magiging judge nito ay mga nagturo sa inyo. So, ako yun, sina Sir RK, Ira, Randy, si Draylen, si Sir Frank. After being chosen as participants, ano nga bang mga content ng presentation? Magti-thesis kayo. Joke lang. So, it's like thesis pero hindi. Ano lang kami. Chill lang to. So first, what is it about? Second, ano yung significance ng gagawin nyo? Third, how did you collect the data? Paano nyo kinuha yung data? Saan? Fourth, paano nyo to na-process using Python and Colab? What are the steps? Fifth, ano yung findings nyo after doing the project? Finally, yung conclusions nyo sa projects na to. So, wala tong ano, no, ang related lists or konti lang if ever. So, chill lang to. It's supposed to be chill. After ng presentations, you will be judged again. Hindi to thesis, but there will be awards. So, may mga criteria ulit kami. So, mag-invite kami ng workmates namin to judge your presentations. Sina DG, sina DDG, joke lang. Hindi yung mga boss, lang namin, workmates. So, iba to sa mga mentors from the drop-in sessions. So, first, yung organization ng content, 50%. Are the goals clearly presented? Yung methods nyo ba are appropriate? Yung results nyo ba ay were clearly presented? So, yun, 50%. Oral presentation naman is 30%. So, articulation nito, mag-practice kayo. Parang how confident were you? Ganun. Third, knowledge of the subject matter is 20%. This will show sa question and answer after each presentation. So, how confident ba kayo in doing your project? So, ito yung mga awards natin. So, first, all presenters and members ng project will be given a certificate of presentation and automatically SIICaP. So, kung talo kayo kanina, this is your chance for a SIICaP. So, kung mapili yung projects nyo, I'm sure panalo na. And aside dun sa certificate of participation pala to, and merch, may awards din tayo. So, People's Choice Award. Gagawin ito through Menti. So, imbes na game, yung pipili tayo ng choice natin kung sino ang dapat i-award nito. Sa best project proposal naman, so may criteria to. Sino yung mananalo ng first, second, and third. Pati na rin sa best oral presentation, may first, second, and third. So ano nga ba yung mga pwede nyong i-present na project? So as I said, we just want to gusto lang namin makita kung anong pwede nyong gawin with Python and Colab. So example, COVID-19 cases for a flat map, pwede nyong gawin. Pwede kayo for example, analysis kung related ba yung population sa COVID-19 deaths. Pwedeng gumamit lang kayo solely, or pwede kayong gumamit ng vector lang without raster. So pwede yun, pwede yun. Second naman, pwede kayong gumamit ng raster only. So example nun, air quality time series analysis over Metro Manila. So yan. Third, pwede naman kayong gamitin yung both datasets. So example, flood hazard map. So it's up to you to really show your ideas kung saan nyo gusto siyang gamitin. So just an example. So in a project na parang activity namin before, I used a raster file and a vector file to show the flood hazard of buildings. So, kumuha ko ng raster dataset ng flood hazard map from NDVI. And kinuha ko yung mga buildings sa Magallanes. And from there, parang nag-designate ako ng hazard level to each building depending dun sa value niya sa raster. So, can be very low, moderate, or high depending dun sa location. Tapos may analysis kung ilang buildings nga ba yung per hazard level. So yan, ang timeline nito, so right now, mamaya registration will open on the 23rd yung deadline ng submission, yung and 26 the announcement of chosen presentation. Sa October 5 yung culmination activity ng ating data camp. It will be in the afternoon, 1:30 to 4:30. Ito ay Tuesdays. This. So, as I mentioned, magkakaroon ng drop-in session sa Discord. So, ito yung guidelines ng ating drop-in session. So, it will only happen sa ating SIICaP Discord server only. So, di kami mag-entertain ng email, but only through the channel. So, asynchronous session will be available on weekdays 4 to 5 p.m. So, after starting on Monday, pwede na kayo mag-consult kung anong gusto nyong i-propose, kung paano to gawin, kung doable nga ba to, and so on. Meron din asynchronous session wherein pwede kayo mag-post ng questions lang sa Discord, and anytime pwede kami parang mag-ano na lang kami, we will see to it na we will answer the questions, but don't expect na masasagot ito immediately. Use the data camp channel only. So sa Discord natin may channel doon na data camp. Doon lang magpo-post ng questions. And the consultation is only for the following. So first, yung project proposal. Second, how can you do it in Python and Colab? Third, yung presentation. Basically relative lang dun sa presentations ninyo. Other than that, please use the other channels like the Q&A. So ito yung registration form. Pakita ko lang ulit. Stop share. Ito. So basically, sa registration form, sulat nyo lang yung email nyo. For groups who will present, isa lang yung mag-submit. So one registration per project. So first field yung email nyo, yung full name nyo. Second, kung may group members kayo, isulat ninyo yung names nila. Next, yung emails naman ng group members nyo. So, kung wala kayong if you will present individually, I'll just leave them blank. Third, next field is yung title ng presentation and description ng projects. So, base dito kami magde-judge using the criteria. And finally, we just want to know kung ano yung level ng experience mo with data level processing. Wait, babalik ko. Bale yan lang. Thank you. Ito yung form I will send and QR.
All right, maraming salamat, Nico. And yes, nakaka-excite. I'm really looking forward, or we're really looking forward to seeing what projects and ideas you guys will come up with. So good luck dito. Best of luck. And at this point, we have 15 minutes for a question and answer portion. So if you have some inquiries or questions you'd like to ask, as usual, i-comment nyo lang sa chat box, and we will be glad to answer these questions. And I'd like to request si Nico na i-on ulit yung camera niya.
Hello. May questions ba kayo regarding the show and tell? Yung merch ba, free shipping ba yun? Yes, free shipping siya. Kaso through PHL first. I think medyo slow compared sa LBC. Government kami. So, is the deadline of registration later? Hindi. Ang deadline ng registration ay September 23. Ano pong merch? So, may SIICaP kami. This includes yung mga ball pens. Tapos, I'm not sure kung may notebooks na may diwata ata yun. May books, parang notebook na may PILSA logo on it. Journal notebook, not a regular notebook. I don't know kung may full kami, kung marami kaming stock ng tumbler, but let's see. Let's see kung saan naabutin. Pwede naman kami mag-request, I think. Exclusive yung merch, sabi ni Joe. May naka-raise ng hands. Pwede ba siya i-allow magsalita? Yes, Sir Ryan Bantillo. Do you have any question? Okay. Sali kayo guys. Kahit show us map sa using GeoPandas. Pwede yun. Also, kung na-miss nyo yung form, I will paste it sa Discord chat later. If need naka-attend ng previous sessions ng all members, kahit hindi naman, as long as yung criterion na lang naman is you will use Python in processing your data. May kailangan bang i-solve na real world problem yung output? Not necessarily. So one example, show us how you can map yung COVID-19 cases sa Philippines. Basically, tell us kung paano mo yun na-achieve, ano yung kinailangan mo, what did you compute, mga ganun. Doesn't solve COVID. Pwede din kayo mag-cartography using GeoPandas or Raster. So, pwede din yun. You can make art out of our data, out of the geospatial data. Tapos i-present lang ninyo. Ganun. Hello, present po ba sa GeoPandas ang lahat ng GIS functions sa QGIS? Sa vector po ito. I can say na almost. So we have buffering. Usually yung really important functions. So yung mga overlay operations nasa GeoPandas. If you cannot solve really solve it using GeoPandas alone, we can allow incorporating GIS. Pero as soon as we really do encourage using Python if kaya naman. As long as the main analysis is in Python. In data cleaning, pwede po ba using different software, Excel or R? Yes. Pwede. Actually, it's a good time to learn Python din kasi is madali actually kesa sa R using Python. Subjective opinion. Should the output map be in image or could be in HTML? It's up to you. So sa presentation naman, it's how you deliver your presentation or output. Hindi naman result ng mapa. So are there any more questions? So if you have any other questions regarding sa DataCap show and tell, you can post them sa SIICaP Discord server sa under DataCap or under Q&A. So I think that's it for me. Thank you everyone. Sali kayo, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Nico, and everyone who participated in the Q&A session. So ayun, we are excited to see what you guys will come up with for this activity. And if you missed anything on Nico's presentation or may gusto yung balikan doon, we will post it on the SIICaP Discord. So actually, that's it for today. We finished quite a bit ahead of time. But don't go yet kasi mag-picture pa tayo at the end of this. And with that, we'd like to thank you everyone for participating in the 4th session of DataCamp. And magkikita-kita tayo ulit sa World Space Week. Alright, so mag-photo opportunity muna tayo ngayon.
Hi, yes, for the speakers and the MC, kindly turn on your cameras. Turn off po ng share screen so that we could take your photo. Oops, I'm just rearranging. I know some of you guys are excited to answer the evaluation form, so please stand by. We'll send that shortly. But I'd like to take the photo first. Ngiti po sila, Sir Nico, Matt, and Frank. 1, 2, 3. Hold your smiles for a bit. Nico, stop moving your head. Smile. All right, thank you very much.
Space.
Kita-kits sa World Space Week.
Link to the evaluation form is in the chat. We'll also show a QR code on the screen. Thank you.